noticing
That's me.
noticing, what one of the things that shamanism is about is noticing what seems impossible in your life right now as you're watching this. What seems impossible to you? And you're coming up against that limit that might be an invisible kind of barrier. You don't even quite know what it is, but I work with thousands of people all over the world, and it's really interesting working with people. And I say something to them, and I can feel rigidity come up, and well, that's just impossible. There's no way I could ever do that. And so shamanism helps us identify, well, what does seem impossible in your life. For me, many, 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 many years ago, when I was working with Michael Harner, the founder of the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, that I was a long-time faculty member in, it was one of the practices in the program to identify, well, what's impossible? It's essentially he was asking, what would you really love to be happening in your life, but it's impossible? And for me, the first thing that came was, I just don't have enough time to write. I don't know where to find that time. I don't know how to make that time. There isn't enough time, very rigid. And so I worked on that shamanically. And not only did I make it possible, but I published my first book, Shaman's Eye, which is a collection of shamanic poetry. And that I learned so much from that process. And I bring that into the Vision Quest work that I do. That's one of the things we want to discover. We don't know how long we're going to be here, right? You don't know, right, Judy? You don't know how long you're going to be here. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And so I continually, in my life, go after what seems impossible. I go after what I really would love to be doing, but I have no idea how to do that. And I got this burning desire in 2018. I was living in Oregon, had a great teaching job, teaching writing at the college there, and I was in the middle of a wildfire, a firestorm, and this tiny voice just broke into all that and spoke to my soul and said, this moment you're in isn't about getting in your car and leaving, and it's not about staying. It's about you're being called right now to your greater life. It's time to go home to the Monterey Bay, California. And I knew that was true. It was impossible. I was so involved in the entire community up there in Ashland and, Rogue Valley, and with the poets and the writers and the land. My God, the land of the Cascades. And yet I knew that was true. And so I started to take stepping stones. It took me 9 months. Judy, you were part of that. I was in a group with you.
And it was like having these partners and believing it's like, whoa, this is I'm gonna watch you on this journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Be a part of it, it's like, oh, part of it. And even though it wasn't my journey, it was like fascinating as it unfolded. So
Yes. So it took me 9 months, and I got free of Oregon. I quit the job. The dean was horrified. He said, we'll never be able to replace you, Beth. I said, I know, it's hard to leave, but I've got this calling, it was impossible 9 months ago, but I've got a place. I'm going. Here are my final grades. And I got here and I got very, very sick. Just boom, right off the bat. Very, very sick. Pneumonia. And then I had a hip replacement. I was like, geez, will I ever get my momentum here? Here I am in Pacific Grove, the place of my dreams, in a dream home. And I finally got my momentum, and I had this idea. Well, I can't lead Vision Quests in the Mojave Desert. I can't lead them in the Swiss Alps and the Italian Alps anymore. In fact, that's not my calling. My calling is to widen the reach of the Vision Quest, right? I want to work with people all over the world, not just people like, in Monterey. So I took the keys, these 12 incredible keys, ancient wisdom keys, shamanic keys, the best of the Vision Quest. I put it together as an online course. Got 12 amazing men and women enrolled who really wanted to bring transformation.
So I'm going to put a pause here because I want everybody to take a deep breath in here. Because what we're talking and witnessing now is passion.
Yes.
That's the word for now. It's the word for 2023. It always was the word, but there's something about that passion, listening to your calling. So this is like one step, the process and this passion. Some people call it burning desire. I love that word, passion. So continue on there, my friend.
Thank you for underscoring that. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Yeah. The passion for your calling. And I know everybody, you're listening to this right now, and you might think, well, I don't know if I have a calling. I don't know what my passion is. But we're going to just turn up the volume here today. By the time we're complete, you're going to be in touch with that, all right? And I want you to feel free to email me personally if you want to chat with me about that. Beth@BethBeurkens.com. You see my name at the bottom of this little square here. So I put together this online form of the Vision Quest. Never been done before. A lot of doubters among the Wilderness Guides group that I'm part of. Well, that's impossible. You can't get those kind of results if you don't take people into the wilderness with the rattlesnakes and the mountain lions and the scorpions and the 80-pound backpack. And I said, I believe that I can. I'm going to try this. So I got them into a group on a Wednesday night. We started off just incredibly powerfully with, what they were being called to and what the stumbling blocks seemingly were. And then on Monday, COVID hit. Absolute shutdown. The college I had been teaching at, no one in the classrooms. No one on the streets. And many of us, I'm getting chills just remembering that moment and the fear that surged up. So Wednesday, I'm back with the group again. I mean, they're just like all over the map. They're freaking out. So we took one of the main principles in the Vision Quest, which is rely on unseen forces.
Yeah, let's write that down, you guys. Rely on unseen forces.
Yeah.
And take a deep breath in as you write that down.
Yeah.
And then continue. I love it. Gold nugget.
Gold nugget. So I took them on a shamanic journey. And they went to meet either with their power animal helper or their teacher, the shamanic worlds, the upper world or the lower world. And they got in touch with a true source of power that they had lost the hold of, with the panic and the panic messages and the people dying all over the world and we don't know what's going on and the fear. I don't know that I've ever felt fear like that in the atmosphere. I mean, you could reach out the window and you could feel it, you could touch it, And they came back from that journey so empowered. They looked differently on their faces. They were relaxed. They were kind of, happy, chatting again. Oh my God, I completely forgot about, my power animal. I've got the power of the universe to draw on here and keep myself safe. There was no vaccine at that time yet. It was just totally unknown and fear. And so they were back in that true source of power. They got linked up again. That's one of the incredible things about a Vision Quest process that enables you to do that. And so that course went on and, very successfully. It was 12 weeks, 90 days. And I saw amazing results that these people got. I'll get to those in a minute. I'd love to share, if we have time, another of these incredible ancient wisdom keys that are embedded right in the Vision Quest. And that is, people got in touch with, well, I really want to start my own business, but Jesus, there's COVID. How am I going to do that? Or, I've got psoriasis all over my body and the doctors haven't been able to heal it. They want to put me on these heavy drugs. I want to heal my body, but without all the heavy drugs. Just two examples that were going on in that group. And so one of the principles that I shared with them that comes right out of shamanism, and listen, everybody, this is not just somebody else's ancient tradition. This is your tradition, shamanism. Your ancestors, they were all practicing shamanism. You may have had, even have a blood shaman in your lineage, but certainly spiritually, this was everybody's first spiritual tradition. So the next principle that I shared with them is don't focus on the limits. Don't focus on the obstacles. Violate the boundaries of the possible.
I love that.
Violate the boundaries of what seems possible.
I
Well,
never heard it that way. Violate the boundaries.
boundaries of the possible. You know, the doctors are telling her this is probably not going to totally get healed, this psoriasis. And, you know, in our work together, we were able to track where it was coming from, you know, and that was everything. It then seemed possible once she knew it was coming from these tapes that were going around in her head, these old conversations with her horrible boss who had criticized her and blamed her and judged her. There were 3 or 4 of these conversations, and she just kept running them. You know, she ended up quitting the job to get away from it, but she had it with her. These conversations were just going on and on and on and on and on. So I showed her and everybody, I show everybody in the Vision Quest groups how to replace kind of circumstance-driven thoughts with vision-driven thoughts. You've got to be willing to violate the boundaries of the possible. So she went beyond the boundaries of what the doctors were telling her was possible and impossible. We identified these 4 conversations with the old boss, and I shared with her, this is part of the heart of the Vision Quest, ceremonies to actually cut away from those old tapes, those old conversations that never went anywhere. They ended the same place they had ended when she was on the job, right?
Yeah.
So
So another thing is this: there's a golden thread that's been going through right here of the last 2 months of paradigm shifters. This golden thread, and you just hit one when you said the word ceremonies. Now, a couple weeks ago, we had another beautiful soul friend of mine, Katie Augustine, and she led us through ceremony. So I would love to have you like hone in on the importance of ceremony, and then we're gonna kind of tie this up because we're in this limited time. But tell us about that, and then let's do a recap, and then we'll take it from there. But tell us about the because that's what's been this thread in the last 2 or 3 months. It's like, yeah, we know it up here, but it's taking the time for the ceremony, and for me it's a daily ceremony. But tell me more about that piece. I'm just jotting all these notes down.
about ceremony. Okay, so let's talk about the heartbeat in the Vision Quest. It's to do what's called severance work, severance ceremonies. And one of the main ceremonies is to do what's called a death lodge ceremony.
Wow.
Wow is right. It comes from the Cheyenne people. It's modeled after the Cheyenne people who, you know, they would know they were living on the earth, totally connected to the earth. They would know when it was somebody's time to die. And they would set up a separate lodge or teepee for that person who was dying. That person would move into that lodge. And one by one, everybody in the tribe would come in and they would say goodbye. And they would say, I'm sorry I did this, or I'm sorry I didn't do that. And the other person would say, you know, I was sorry too, and it hurt me so much, but Thank you for coming and, kind of like making amends in a way, kind of like forgiving each other, but on a very, very high spiritual level, really completing the relationship. And so my vision quester was able to do that with the old boss. She was able to tell her about these horrible conversations in this death lodge. I can't explain more about how to do that right now, but it's part of the vision quest, which I'm organizing a new vision quest right now, a spring vision quest. So she was able to talk with the old boss spiritually and tie up and end these conversations. And what happened for her was, she was wearing gloves. She was in so much pain. She could barely walk. Her kids had to dress her in the morning. So what happened for her, we just slowly watched her. We were all on Zoom. We could see her. Got better and better. In the last session, she held up her hands with no gloves on, with tears in her eyes, and said, "I'm healed. I'm healed." She could walk again. There were no scabs on her hands. She wasn't bleeding. I mean, the work is so powerful. It's like 60,000 years old. Our ancestors all did this in one way or another, And so it's the last principle. Can I just mention that? It's breaking through invisible barriers. It was invisible to her that these tapes were just going like this all day long, and she was and it was just showing up in her skin. Everything was irritated by it. So it's about thinking beyond common sense. I mean, common sense doesn't say, well, if I would just stop thinking about these conversations and close out that relationship, I would get better. That's not common sense, right? We got to break through these invisible barriers. Sometimes we call them the upper limits or trouble at the border. I love that one, right? Trouble at the border. Put on your cowboy hat, right? Kevin Costner, we got trouble at the border here. So there's a Rumi poem that I would love to share that guided me out of Santa Cruz and got me to the time where I really had time to write and publish my first book. And the Rumi poem goes like this: let yourself be drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. Let yourself be drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. So, we can keep doing what we've been doing, and what we've been doing is okay and it's good, but good is the enemy of great. Or we can really step into and start doing what we're uniquely put on this earth to do. So this vision quester, when she got healed, what she wanted to do was start her own nonprofit business. And she's doing that now.
And I love it. It's breaking through those invisible barriers. And, we've heard it said so many times.
I know.
But until you do take the time, you started out this story about not having enough time.
That's right.
Right. I was just in that paradigm about an hour or so ago, like, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What is really, really important here for the planet? And I mean, I was walking down and I have a post office by me right now, and the flags are at half mast again. And I was talking to a client of mine, yesterday, and she said, she says, why don't we just leave them there? And yeah, like, and we're not even watching the news. I mean, whatever. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, it's taking the time to ask yourself, what is mine to do for me for this period to shift and uplift the planet? But we got to do it for ourselves first. So keep going, Beth. I don't even know how much time we've done, but I would love to add one more question: is what is it that we can see? Because you are like one of those whoop, whoop, point of the arrow people.
Yes, yes.
What can we hold for you for your work right now on the planet? We'll put all the Beth Beurkens up. We'll put that down there. Where is your vision for Beth Beurkens that
Hmm.
we could hold spiritual space for?
Oh, thank you for asking. That is just beautiful. So, yes, if you could be my partner in believing that I gather together, all those individuals, 12 individuals who, are moved by what I'm talking about here and who are just tired of sitting on the fence of life and who want to be a mover and a shaker, who want to transform the old ways of doing life, maybe because they're sick or because they know they've got this gift. And the gift is still in the box, the wrapping paper is still around it, the bow's still on it, and they'd really like to unwrap it and get that gift out and share it with the world and elevate their life, their kids' lives, the life of the planet. The people who have the longing to want to learn this incredible program, really, that takes you stepping stone by stepping stone by stepping stone to open up the gift, to trust and believe in your gift, and use these ceremonies and shamanic healing practices. Get plugged into the shaman's net of power that is all around us. Access true sources of power and step forward. So just hold for me that I am calling these people in. They're being magnetized in. They're showing up. They have a breakthrough session with me. They're saying yes to themselves. Yes to living this life of being vision driven rather than circumstance driven.
Okay,
Yeah.
ready to receive?
I, I'm ready to receive. Yes, thank you.
All right, hang on. We got this. You're a receiver, so we're like getting our energy, and right. Guess what? There's 1,600 souls right now,
Mm.
plus who knows whatever, and we're getting that energy, and then I invite you right now. You stay there, Beth, but we're gonna feel that energy within you, and then we're gonna shoot it all the way to Beth. Not really.
Oh,
It's a time thing. And so it is. And we're going to take our hand like this and shoot it out.
woo!
And so we let it be. I so appreciate you, Beth. And this this is amazing. We're gonna go like this. Whoop. We're gonna go like this, and now we're back just on Zoom. I did it. I'm watching the buttons, and it's like powerful house, and so it is.
Mm.
And thank you so much. And that is, my friends, a wrap.